Laudetur Jesus Christus. Vatican and World News.
In the headlines this Monday, February the 1st, the President of the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue highlights the significance of the International Day of Human Fraternity on the 4th of February and of the Pope's participation in the event. Myanmar's army seizes power and detains de facto leader Aung San Suu Kyi. And Pope Francis receives Rome-based Catholic news service journalists, marking the 100th anniversary of their foundation. In the Vatican, I'm Linda Bordoni. Pope Francis will celebrate the International Day of Human Fraternity on Thursday, the 4th of February, established by the United Nations General Assembly. He's scheduled to participate in a virtual event hosted by Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed in Abu Dhabi, capital of the United Arab Emirates, with the participation of the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, Ahmad El-Tayeb, Secretary General Antonio Guterres of the United Nations, and other personalities. On the same occasion, the Zayed Award for Human Fraternity, which is inspired by the Human Fraternity document, will be awarded. The date is no coincidence. In fact, it was the 4th of February 2019, during an apostolic journey the Pope made to the United Arab Emirates, that together with the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, they signed the document on human fraternity for world peace and living together. A few months later, the Higher Committee of Human Fraternity was established to translate the aspirations of the Human Fraternity document into sustained engagements and concrete actions to foster fraternity, solidarity, respect and mutual understanding. Speaking to Vatican Radio, Cardinal Miguel Angel Ayuso, President of the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue, said the celebration responds to a clear call that Pope Francis has been making to all humanity to build a present of peace in the encounter with the other.
The world is going through an exceedingly difficult period that requires appropriate responses and solutions to the problems of our day. For this reason, it is significant that each year on February the 4th, we celebrate the International Day of Human Fraternity, as established on December 21st by the General Assembly of the United Nations. It is increasingly evident that no one can save themselves on their own. Therefore, it is indispensable that the world takes into consideration the value of human fraternity. There is a real need for the human family to come together in a unified spirit and in true friendship to develop responses to problems affecting us all. Religious leaders especially must help spread hope and give witness in the societies where they live to unity, solidarity, and fraternity.
And that was Cardinal Miguel Angel Ayuso, President of the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue. In Myanmar, military forces seized power from the democratically elected government in a coup d'etat carried out on Monday morning. As Devon Watkins reports, the army imprisoned many elected officials, as well as the de facto leader Aung San Suu Kyi.
A military coup is underway in the Southeast Asian nation of Myanmar. Army forces arrested several senior government leaders in an early morning raid on Monday. Among those detained was Aung San Suu Kyi, the country's state councillor, de facto leader and Nobel Peace Prize laureate, along with her ally President Win Myint. Military TV announced power had been transferred to Commander-in-Chief Min Aung Hlaing and declared a one-year state of emergency. The army alleged election fraud in the November 8th election, which saw 70% of registered voters hand 83% of parliamentary seats to the National League for Democracy, or NLD, the party of Ms. Suu Kyi. The NLD issued a statement on Monday on her behalf, calling on the people of Myanmar to reject the coup. I urge people not to accept this, the statement read, and to respond and wholeheartedly to protest against the coup by the military. Communications have been severely curtailed in several major cities, including Yangon and the new capital, Naypyidaw. Phone services are disrupted and mobile internet data connections are down. Major broadcasters like the BBC and MRTV, the state broadcaster, as well as local stations, are off the air. News agencies report people standing in long lines at ATMs to withdraw cash, and banks have temporarily suspended financial services. The international response has been clear, calling on the military to return power to the civilian government. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken urged the military to reverse their actions and said the U.S. backs the people in their aspirations for democracy, freedom, peace, and development. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres also decried the move. He said all leaders must act in the greater interest of Myanmar's democratic reform, engaging in meaningful dialogue, refraining from violence, and fully respecting human rights and fundamental freedoms. Australia's foreign minister expressed concern over the coup d'etat. We call on the military to respect the rule of law, to resolve disputes through lawful mechanisms, and to release immediately all civilian leaders and others who have been detained unlawfully. I'm Devin Watkins.
The European Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen, has announced that pharmaceutical company AstraZeneca is set to supply 9 million more doses of its coronavirus vaccine to the European Union during the first quarter of this year. Lydia O'Kane has more.
So far, the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine in the EU has been a rather bumpy one, and the European Union has come under pressure over its handling of vaccine orders in the last number of days. The bloc is way behind Britain and the United States in its campaign to get people inoculated. The situation is being blamed on a range of national problems, as well as an initial shortage of supply. In particular, the European Union was heavily criticised over its threat to put controls on the Northern Ireland border to stop vaccines made in the EU from reaching the UK. The EU subsequently backed down. However, despite these recent events, pharmaceutical company AstraZeneca has agreed to deliver 9 million additional doses of its coronavirus vaccine to the European Union during the first quarter. The European Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen, said this supply was a step forward. The new target of 40 million doses by the end of March is still only half what the British-Swedish company had originally aimed for before it announced a shortfall due to production problems, which caused a row between the company and the EU last week. Meanwhile, von der Leyen announced on Monday that Pfizer and German partner BioNTech will supply 75 million extra doses of their COVID-19 vaccine in the second quarter of this year. The firm has said it can produce up to 1.3 billion doses around the world in 2021. Adding 500 million doses would be available to the EU by the end of this year. A person receiving the Pfizer vaccine needs 2 doses to develop maximum protection. I'm Lydia O'Kane.
In El Salvador, 2 people were killed when gunmen opened fire on activists from the country's main opposition party. The Farabundo Martim National Liberation Front supporters were returning from a campaign rally when their lorry came under fire by suspects in a car. The attack on the left-wing party came 4 weeks before legislative and municipal elections are due to be held. 3 people have been arrested. The United Nations International Children's Fund, UNICEF, is calling for an enhancement for security of civilian areas in Syria. In the wake of the decade-long conflict, in which it is estimated that over 200,000 civilians have been killed, including at least 25,000 minors, UNICEF is reminding conflicting parties of their obligation to protect children. Father Benedict Mayaki reports.
The UN Children's Fund, UNICEF, has called on all of the parties involved in the conflict in Syria to respect their obligations to protect children at all times and refrain from violence in civilian areas. In a statement on Sunday, Bo Victor Nyland, the UNICEF representative in Syria, decried the loss of human lives in the country. UNICEF noted that in an attack in Azaz in northern rural Aleppo on Sunday, a 12-year-old girl was reportedly killed, and among the scores of people injured were 2 other boys, one of them less than a year old. In another separate attack on Saturday, 3 children were killed in an explosion in the town of Afrin, also in northern rural Aleppo. The UNICEF statement notes that 10 years into the conflict, children continue to be the hardest hit by unprecedented destruction, displacement, and death. Many, the statement continues, have lost their lives, their homes, and childhoods. With these recent unfortunate attacks, approximately 22 children have been killed since the start of this year, in a stark reminder that violence continues in Syria and children continue to be in danger day in, day out. A separate statement issued by UNICEF on the 24th of January highlighted the negative effects of the long-running violence on education in Syria, pointing out that more than half of children in the country are deprived of education. UNICEF noted that there are 2.4 million children out of school, and nearly 40% of that number are girls. At the same time, there have been nearly 700 attacks on education facilities and personnel since the verification of grave violations against children began in the country. At present, 1 in 3 schools in Syria can no longer be used because they were destroyed, damaged, or are being used for military purposes. Meanwhile, in other areas, basic services and civilian infrastructure continue to come under attack even as the country battles with other difficulties exacerbated by the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. I'm Father Benedict Mayaki.
And finally, Pope Francis today conversed informally with journalists from Catholic News Service. The meeting came during an audience marking the 100th anniversary of the news agency's establishment by the bishops of the United States. Christopher Wells has more.
In prepared remarks, which were not delivered viva voce, but instead distributed to those present, Pope Francis said, over these past 100 years, Catholic News Service has provided an invaluable contribution to the English-speaking world through its coverage of the Church's mission proclaiming the gospel and witnessing to the love of God revealed in Jesus Christ. Pope Francis noted that in a world when news can be easily manipulated and misinformation spread, CNS strives to live up to their motto by making the truth known in a way that is fair, faithful, and informed. He encouraged CNS to continue fostering dialogue and honest communication between individuals and communities, saying that in today's world, we need media that can help people, especially the young, to distinguish good from evil, to develop sound judgments based on a clear and unbiased presentation of the facts, and to appreciate the importance of working for justice, social concord, and respect for our common home. The Holy Father concluded his remarks with the prayer that the spirit of communion with the Bishop of Rome, which has always been a hallmark of Catholic News Service, might continue to guide their efforts to serve the truth with humility and responsibility. I'm Christopher Wells.
And that brings us to the end of this edition of Vatican and World News. For more on these and on other stories, you can visit our web portal at www.vaticannews.va. You can also like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. And for news, join us again tomorrow at this same time. My thanks go to Joe Mauriello in studio. In the Vatican, I'm Linda Bordoni. Bye-bye.